On the Andy Griffith Show, the Fun Girls became unforgettable with just a few appearances. Skippy, with her high-pitched giggle, and Daphne, with her husky hello doll, could throw Mayberry's piece into chaos in an instant. They were loud, bold, and always ready to steal Andy and Barney's attention away from Helen and Thelma Lou. But behind the laughter and the antics, Joyce Jameson and Carson were living lives that couldn't have been more different from the carefree characters they played. Their off-screen stories were filled with ambition, heartbreak, and struggles that cast a long shadow over the fame they earned. This contrast between the bubbly troublemakers of Mayberry and the real women behind them is as fascinating as it is tragic. And today, we're taking you behind the curtain to uncover the true stories of the Fun Girls, what they brought to Mayberry, and what it cost them when the cameras stopped rolling. The Fun Girls first burst into Mayberry in the early 1960s, and from the moment they stepped on screen, they were unforgettable. Skippy, played by Joyce Jameson, was the blonde with the piercing laugh that echoed through the courthouse. Daphne, brought to life by Carson, had that gravelly voice and her signature greeting. Hello, doll delivered with playful mischief. They came from Mount Pilot, the fictional big city just outside Mayberry, and every time they arrived, they stirred up trouble for Andy and Barney. Their flashy makeup, bold personalities, and teasing flirtations stood in sharp contrast to the wholesome calm of Mayberry. More than just comic relief, they were the perfect foil to Helen Crump and Thelma Lou, igniting jealous sparks and driving storylines that showed just how vulnerable Andy and Barney could be when temptation came knocking. Though they appeared in only a handful of episodes, the Fun Girls carved out a permanent place in the show's history. They were outsiders who highlighted Mayberry's innocence by shaking it up, and audiences loved watching the chaos unfold. Joyce Jameson's path to Mayberry began long before she stepped into Skippy's shoes. Born in Chicago in 1932, she broke into Hollywood with small parts that quickly grew into memorable supporting roles. By the early 1960s, she had already appeared in Tales of Terror, The Comedy of Terrors, and the romantic comedy Good Neighbor Sam. On television, her versatility shone in shows like Perry Mason, The Twilight Zone, and The Dick Van Dyke Show. Yet it was as Skippy the giggling, carefree blonde that she found her most iconic role. Her personal life, however, was far from carefree. Joyce married composer Billy Barnes in the early 1950s, and the couple had a son, Tyler, before parting ways. Later, she was romantically linked with actor Robert Vaughn. Behind the glamorous image, though, she battled deep struggles. Chronic insomnia and depression shadowed her career, and the brightness she brought to Skippy was in stark contrast to her private pain. Tragically, Joyce's story ended far too soon. In 1987, she died from an overdose at just 54 years old. Fans who only knew her as the bubbly fun girl were left stunned, realizing the laughter they loved so much had come from someone carrying an invisible weight. Carson, who gave life to Daphne, was born in West Virginia in 1923. Unlike Joyce Jameson, Jean's roots were in the theater. She studied drama at Carnegie Mellon and made her mark on Broadway, even earning a Tony nomination for her work in The Birdcage. That stage presence carried over naturally to television and film, where she built a long and varied career. Before the Andy Griffith Show, Jean appeared in The Twilight Zone, Peter Gunn, and The Betty Hutton Show. In fact, her first appearance in Mayberry wasn't as Daphne at all, but as a bold ex-con in the episode Convicts at Large. Audiences loved her energy, and it wasn't long before she returned as Daphne, the husky-voiced fun girl who purred hello, doll in a way no one could forget. Beyond Mayberry, Jean's film credits included The Phoenix City Story, I Married a Monster from Outer Space, The Party with Peter Sellers, and Fun with Dick and Jane. Yet Jean, too, carried struggles off-screen. She married twice and raised 2 sons. But during the 1970s, she battled a drinking problem that dimmed her career. In later years, she overcame those challenges and found joy again. Connecting warmly with fans of The Andy Griffith Show, Jean passed away in Palm Springs in 2005 after a stroke at the age of 82. Her legacy, however, remains tied to that smoky laugh and the unforgettable mischief she brought to Mayberry. Though they appeared in only 3 episodes, the Fun Girls left an outsized mark on The Andy Griffith Show. Each time they blew into Mayberry, they turned Andy and Barney's orderly world upside down. Their first appearance in 1962 came with plenty of chaos. A chance encounter led to Andy getting a black eye after a tussle with Daphne's jealous ex-boyfriend. It was a rare moment when the usually steady sheriff was caught in the middle of something truly messy, and audiences couldn't stop laughing. The second visit was even more disruptive. Andy and Barney were pulling a late shift at the courthouse when Skippy and Daphne showed up looking for fun. Helen and Thelma Lou, spotting the commotion, decided to give the boys a taste of their own medicine by arranging dates with Gomer and Goober, in a twist that perfectly fit the show's humor. The Fun Girls ended up enjoying the company of the mechanics far more than the sheriff and his deputy. Their final appearance followed the same playful pattern. Once again, the women teased Andy and Barney, setting off another round of jealousy and misunderstandings. Andy eventually lost patience, sending them away, but the punchline came when the Fun Girls turned up later at Andy's house, proving they were never ones to be easily dismissed. In just 3 episodes, Skippy and Daphne became icons, their antics forever etched into the comedy of Mayberry. On screen, the Fun Girls were pure energy, loud laughter, playful banter, and the perfect spark to disrupt Andy and Barney's calm routines. They existed as comic foils, designed to stir jealousy and inject chaos into Mayberry's small-town charm. For viewers, their presence was light-hearted fun, a reminder that temptation and trouble could come from just down the road in Mount Pilot, off-screen. However, their lives carried a weight far heavier than the roles suggested. Joyce Jameson's high-pitched giggle masked years of sleepless nights and an ongoing battle with depression. Behind her sparkling eyes was a woman who often felt trapped by Hollywood's typecasting and her own private demons. Carson, meanwhile, wrestled with being seen as the other woman. Though a talented actress with theater credentials and a wide range, she was often locked into roles of the temptress or outsider. The frustration of that label, combined with personal struggles, eventually led her into alcoholism during the 1970s, a battle she later overcame but not without scars. The Fun Girls brought laughter to millions, but for Joyce and Jean, the characters also became reminders of the gap between the audience's joy and their own hardships. It was a stark example of how television's brightest smiles often hid the darkest struggles. Even with just 3 appearances, the Fun Girls became some of the most unforgettable characters in The Andy Griffith Show. Their wild energy and over-the-top antics provided the perfect counterbalance to Mayberry's steady rhythm. By shaking up the quiet charm of Andy and Barney's world, they made the town's innocence shine even brighter. Skippy's shrill giggle and Daphne's smoky "hello" doll quickly became catchphrases fans never forgot. They stood out not because they were main characters, but because they pushed the storylines into places of jealousy, comedy, and human vulnerability. Helen Crump and Thelma Lou became more relatable when tested by the chaos the Fun Girls brought. Even Gomer and Goober found unexpected chemistry with them, adding new layers of humor. Beyond Mayberry, the Fun Girls influenced how supporting characters could leave a lasting mark. They proved that you didn't need to be in dozens of episodes to become part of television history. Many sitcoms that followed borrowed the outsider troublemaker trope characters who arrive, stir everything up, and reveal new sides of the leads. Today, fans still talk about the Fun Girls because they embody what made The Andy Griffith Show so timeless: simple comedy layered with just enough mischief to keep viewers hooked. Their legacy is proof that even short-lived roles can echo for generations in American pop culture. The Fun Girls may have only stopped by Mayberry a handful of times, but their impact still lingers more than 60 years later. On screen, they were a reminder that even the most picture-perfect town wasn't immune to temptation, mischief, and a little chaos. Off-screen, Joyce Jameson and Carson lived lives that showed us the cost of Hollywood's pressures, the weight of typecasting, and the private struggles so often hidden behind bright smiles. Their story is both lighthearted and bittersweet. Skippy and Daphne made us laugh, made us cringe, and made us root harder for Andy, Barney, Helen, and Thelma Lou. But knowing the challenges the actresses faced brings a deeper appreciation for the joy they brought into our homes. Their legacy is not just in the laughter they sparked, but in the humanity behind the performances. What do you think were the Fun Girls, a welcome spark of mischief in Mayberry? Or did you prefer the town without their wild interruptions? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you love exploring the hidden stories behind the Andy Griffith Show and other classics from the 1960s, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and join us next time as we uncover more untold tales from TV's golden age.